Discover Podium, we get asked a lot of questions about career search, about when it's time for someone to really consider a career change, and what are some of the signs that you need something new in your life. For us, it's really simple. It's, do you wake up every day passionate about what it is you do? Yes or no? Do you dread going in the car and waiting in traffic for an hour and a half to get to an office job to feel like you're not making an impact? Yes or no? Do you go to bed excited to go to work or not? Yes or no, right? Now, this may seem a little glorified because we know that having a job is a blessing, and being able to work and provide for our families is a blessing. We don't want to take that for granted, sure. But in today's day and age where we can work remote, or we can travel, or we can work in a city, or we have all of these options, and technology has really opened a lot of doors for us, there's no excuse for us to go to a job and be miserable. A sign that it's time to change is you've been passed over for promotion after promotion. A sign for change is you're not receiving the mentorship or growth opportunities that you need in your career. A sign for change is it's difficult for you to pay your bills and take care of your family. A sign for change is you're working 60, 70 hours a day and you're realizing that your life is passing you by and you don't get to see your kids. A sign for change is when your boss is discriminating against other people on your team. If there's not equal representation. A sign for change is when people are put down and not treated as equals. A sign for change is when you feel like you don't have a voice, or you feel like other people at the company don't have a voice. And I think that's particularly powerful with what's happening in today's times. There's really no excuse for that, and you have to be really working for and promoting that change that you want to see. So what are a few signs? There's a lot of signs. And ultimately it boils down to, are you genuinely happy doing what you're doing? There's a lot of components that can really indicate that you're burnt out or you're ready for a new challenge. Overall, we feel that everyone should have an opportunity to be fulfilled in their career. And if you're not feeling that fulfillment, that is a sign that it's time to make a change, because that's the only thing that you can control in your life, is to really work for something that you're happy with. Ultimately, we spend over 30% of our lives working. Some of us more, some of us maybe a little bit less, but if you're going to spend 30% of your life doing something, it should be something that you love. So to answer that question shortly, if you wake up in the morning and you're not happy with what you're doing, it's time to think about doing something else. Another question we get is, what are some of the ways that people rationalize not searching for work? Ultimately, change is difficult. Sometimes it feels like you're greedy, or you're not being loyal, or there are times when somebody really made something happen for you to get you the job that you had, and you'd feel like you'd be betraying them because you're no longer happy, but you feel an obligation to someone else other than yourself to do something about it. And so there's a lot of ways we can justify not making a change. The market's bad. I'm making pretty good money. It's greedy to try to get more. My spouse is going to have to move. My kids, I have to do this for my kids first. And these are all reasons to take into consideration, but ultimately going out and looking for a job doesn't mean you have to take the job. So identifying new opportunities for yourself, seeing what's out there, determining what you're worth, just putting yourself out there doesn't mean you have to leave. Sure, it's extra effort, but you don't lose anything by putting yourself out there. So you don't have to accept the first offer that's given to you. And that's the tricky spot when you're looking for a job, is you sometimes, the optimal time for me to find a job would be in 3 months. So I'm going to start in 3 months, when in reality, it takes some time to build up to that. So there's nothing wrong with getting a job offer in 6 weeks, should you, strike everything in gold right off the bat and get an offer because you're that desirable. There's nothing wrong with that. Then you just communicate, hey, the optimal time for me to start would be in 6 weeks. Are you open to having that conversation in 6 weeks and me starting in 6 weeks? And then you've hit it right where you want. It's like if you were to want to move, right? Your lease is up in 4 months. Are you going to wait until your lease is up to find a new house, or are you going to start exploring a couple months in advance to understand the neighborhoods you want to move to, or those kinds of things? It's, if you want to have a gym buddy for the summer, do you start in June or do you start in January, right? That's the thing. And part of the job search people don't recognize is how long it's going to take in some cases. And it takes a lot longer when you're trying to find something that you truly enjoy doing versus just something in general. So that's something that we don't often account for, is what job's actually going to make us happy. Now, you're exceptionally privileged, and it's a first world problem to be looking for a job while you already have a job. First of all, that's a great benefit, but it also means you have nothing to lose. So when you're out there looking for jobs and you get a job offer and you already have a job, you're in a great position because you get to now choose, do I stay where I am or do I take this new opportunity? And because you have the ability to choose, you'll actually feel more fulfillment because you finally got to make a choice in your life on where it is you wanted to spend your time, even if it is with your current employer. Like, I'm going to give it another crack because I've learned what's out there. I'm happy with what I've got. Now I'm rejuvenated in my role, and I'm going to do better work for where I've been and demand more because I know I'm valuable elsewhere too. So there's never been like a problem of having too many opportunities is not a problem at all. It gets stressful because it feels like you're leading people on to get a job offer, and then you're leading someone else on, and then you're trying to get another job somewhere else, and all of a sudden you have 3 people vying for you. It's a great problem to have, first of all, and it's a problem that not very many job seekers have. So it's something that we're trying to change, is to open as many doors, but then give you the choice on which one you want to walk through. So, there are lots of ways that we can rationalize that, look, I have a great opportunity. I'm more blessed than most. And trust me, I've felt this way in my career. I've grown in my career to making money that I shouldn't be making and felt miserable doing it. And from a society perspective, sometimes we put that pressure on ourselves and say, okay, I'm just going to grin and bear it because I'm doing pretty well, or, I'm fortunate to be in this situation. So there are a lot of reasons we can choose to wait. And the thing is, happiness doesn't wait, and your life doesn't wait. It's going to happen regardless. So really, some of those signs are just complacency. And those are things that you need to watch out for. So, is this making me happy, yes or no? And if it's not, then there is no reason for you to wait around. Again, if just because you're looking for a job or looking for other opportunities out there doesn't mean you have to take it. So having opportunities is not a problem. It's not a bad problem to have, to be, where do I want to go? Options is really all you're looking for. And then finally, what's the best first steps? Like, I've acknowledged, hey, Jacob, I need to make a career change. What do I do about it? The first thing is to get your head straight. It's to understand that it's a process. And finding a job today is not like it's been probably any other time in your career. There are several tools out there. There are recruiters that you can work with. There are headhunters that you can work with. There's your network and your colleagues and your friends and your family. And there's Craigslist and there's Indeed and there's LinkedIn and there's Glassdoor. And I could actually probably do that for an hour. The first thing you have to recognize is that this is a learning process and you're never going to master it, and that's okay. You'll be able to look at Indeed and Glassdoor and LinkedIn, and you'll be able to apply for jobs there. You may not hear back. You may get a lot of rejections. That's okay. Those are all one step closer to moving towards the next kind of whatever fulfillment you're going to get out of your job search. So you have to recognize that the environment's very chaotic. You have to put yourself out there, not be afraid of failing. You have to try new things. You have to ask for help. You need to leverage your network. You need to get really good at communicating your story and understanding what it is you're looking for. And through that process, if you understand it's a learning process, you'll also understand that you're going to screw up more often than you're going to be successful. And as long as you take those mistakes and turn them into elements that help you better define where it is you're going and what type of story you're trying to tell and where you're trying to go next, you're going to start to whittle away closer at a more fulfilling opportunity for yourself. So you're not going to be perfect at it. You're going to fail a lot more than you're going to win. The actual success rate from an application is about 5%. And when you think about that, that's 1 in 20. And if you go the traditional route and you polish up your resume and you send in a cover letter and you reach out to the recruiter and you talk to the hiring manager and you send your thank yous 20 times and you hear back from one, you're going to be damn frustrated. But if you go into it expecting that you aren't going to get anything in return, but keep working towards it and keep polishing and practicing, you're going to be in a much better headspace and much more likely to find success and stick with the program through to completion. We typically designed Discover Podium for people that already have jobs. And that's why the vision of finding more fulfilling work is important. But and I didn't frame it in this talk track, but the first and most important thing you need to consider is your survival. And survival is obviously number one. Prior to fulfillment, you need to take care of your family and yourself before the nice to haves, so to speak, of being happy doing what you're doing. So survival is actually one of the ways that people can rationalize not moving forward. And that's because they're already surviving. What happens is a layoff can tend to be a blessing because it can push you into now doing something new. And I'm not saying it's an actual happy-go-lucky good time I got laid off. It's the most terrifying thing you can go through, and your survival's in check. And you go through some of the most challenging and but also most rewarding period of your life, where you get to find what's next. And even if the next thing that you find isn't what you want, but it helps you survive, it helps fuel the hunger for you to find something that you do like. And that in itself is where the blessing lay. And having gone through layoffs and having been fired before, I can at least relate to how scary that is. All of those feelings cross your mind, as well as imposter syndrome and feelings of failure and inadequacy. And, especially if it was a small layoff and you were one of the few that was laid off and so many people got to stay, man, that feels brutal. And it's very easy to take it as an isolated experience and to feel isolated and to take it all upon yourself because your career is so personalized. And it almost feels like you don't have anyone to talk to about that. So that's something that it's worth acknowledging if you've been through a layoff, to be mindful of your own survival. And even if you do have to take something that's not the greatest fit or not your passion or dream play, it's a stepping stone to what could be next. And it's most important that you survive first, then thrive second.